So this morning charging finished at the 15 amp setting, but that was an hour ago. I was trying to preheat the car, so that was from 28%, 7.3 kilowatt hours, 3 hours 23. 7 degrees outside, 14 and 17. So there's pretty much no difference between 15 amp charging and 6 amp charging at this temperature. But I wanted to preheat the car this morning. Preheat means I stop the charging a little bit earlier, then turn the car on, turn the heating on 32 or whatever. Preheat the car for 15 minutes and then plug it back in to fully charge again. It's just, this battery is just so small. It's constantly plugged in and charging and waiting. As always, every morning we have charged to 98%. So I guess the charge stops at 100 or 100, a little bit over 100, and then the chemistry settles down. And I would say 80% of the times I've got 98% state of charge when I turn on the car. And like every morning, we are taking a measurement here at the overpass at 6.7 ampere hours, which is, I think, exactly the same as yesterday, so there's no change. I can push this a little bit down when there's no traffic on the highway. If I'm driving on the highway and there's traffic, I need to accelerate a little bit harder than I usually would, and this takes, of course, more energy. If the highway is free, there's no other cars, I can drive really slowly and accelerate smoothly, and I'm using about half an ampere hour less until the overpass. 63%, 18 kilometers, the same as every day. I'm very constant in what I'm doing. Yeah?
Many hours later.
So back at the car. So I was charging here at the club today because I've got another appointment, and we are at 100.3, and that's usually what I get maximum straight after charging. So probably in the next 15-20 minutes after charge has finished, I'm going up to 100.3, sometimes 100.6, but that's it. That's it. But you know, on the bright side, the battery temperature is nice and warm at 23 and 26 now, which is ideal for the program my navigator. I can actually show you quickly how it works. So you click on this little button here. Then we go to address, cities, Lowood, Beacon Road, 42, set. Okay, so I've got the address in there. Click on set. And then before you click on start, I want to program the second address, which is my home address. I click on the I can't say this word. And I click on add, and I click on home. And I click on the itinerary, I don't know how this works, and say, look, this is where I am at the moment. This is my first address, and then I click on add in between or after the first one, and then I click on start. So the first stopover is the customer and the second one is home, and I click on start, and it's calculating, and here I am, 66 kilometers all in total. Yeah. So it doesn't take long to program the actual navigator, even with more stopovers, and you can change them around. You can go back into the Navi menu and click on the, I think it's the guidance. Yeah. See, this is the full distance we have, or I can just click on the next destination, go back to the map, and it shows me it's 41 kilometers to the customer and then 66 was in total, so 41 to 66 back home. And I usually do this a lot in the car, so it gives me an indication how much kilometers I have to drive, so I can determine when to use safe mode, charge mode, EV driving. Very handy, very efficient driving style. Also, I haven't mentioned, at 100.3% we are on 36 kilometers, but this is just a gasometer. I was driving a lot in Ipswich on the weekend, so we had a good run. You've seen the video of the Tesla charger again where we were, and I was driving in the city, and the gasometer went up to 42 kilometers after the charge. And this is just the slowest speed of driving you're doing in the city, which then calculates back into the gasometer and shows you a higher EV range on the gasometer, on the display. And this does not happen here during highway driving and everything. So it's just more consumption, and the prediction of the EV range is more conservative. It gives you less EV range on the display. Okay, let's go. I need to be very careful now because there's no regen happening. Even in B5 there was nothing happening. The car does not slow down at all because the battery is so full. Regen kicks back in at about 95%. See, there's nothing happening. I'm at B3 now. I need to use friction brakes to slow down. Put it back in B5. Yeah. The power meter barely goes into the blue area, barely. So there's no regen. So be very careful when you fully charge the battery and you take your foot off the accelerator expecting a nice smooth regen brake. No, it's not gonna happen. Anyway, as a habit, I put the car back in B0 while driving. That's 80% of the time I drive in B0. Just put the car in safe mode. I want to save the battery capacity for later use. I still got 18 kilometers on the gasometer, and we are 15 kilometers away from the first stop. But I know I've got another 22 kilometers to go afterwards, 24 kilometers, I can't 25 kilometers to go afterwards, with some slow areas to go. And I always use the battery in the slow areas. And here it's dead flat, 100 kilometers per hour, and safe mode is the best way to drive the car. Always use the safe mode or charge mode when you are driving on highway. Save the battery power for slower speeds in towns, cities. The interesting stuff now is put the car in cruise control. So we are doing 100 kilometers per hour, and the car uses around 11 liters per 100 kilometers. Okay, I'm just slowing down now to about 80 kilometers. Engine is still on, and you can see the car uses not much less fuel. It's still 10-11 liters per 100 kilometers. It basically balances the power which goes to the wheels to drive the car and the power which goes into the generator to recharge the battery, and it keeps this as a total consumption at around 10 to 11 liters. Some of the power goes into driving the car, some of them goes into the battery, and when you accelerate, it uses more power for driving the car and less for charging the battery, but the overall consumption stays pretty much the same. It's about 10 to 11 liters. And when you take your foot off the accelerator, it still uses 6 liters per 100 kilometers in coast. And this is purely going into the generator then. So roughly half of the consumption goes into the generator at a speed of 100 kilometers per hour. Quick maths. So the fuel consumption is not so much dependent on your accelerator pedal on your right foot. It is more a balance between driving the car and charging the car. It uses almost a constant amount of fuel per 100 kilometers and then distributes this power either into the battery to recharge the battery in hybrid mode or drive the car directly. And tonight I can actually afford to turn on the heating a little bit. We've got 16 degrees outside and I get it nice and toasty here with 24 now, because the engine runs anyway, has heated up the water, and it doesn't cost me any more energy to heat up the cabin now. I was just driving along and said, oh, it's getting a little bit chilly here, and I looked at 16 degrees and said, oh, hang on, I'm driving in hybrid mode, I can actually turn on the heating. So here we go. Finally found out where this rattling in the dashboard comes from. This is coming from this little pin right next to the dashboard, which adjusts the brightness of your dashboard. You push the button and it adjusts it in several levels, and this little pin is rattling like hell. I finally found it. I was looking for it for a long time. I said, damn it, it gets worse and worse. And it looks like the actual push button is a little bit loose and rattles around in the plastic housing. So I will just probably use a piece of a toothpick or something and push it next to it into the plastic housing to stop it from rattling. Otherwise it drives me nuts, it drives me insane. So I'm now driving in serious mode, so our petrol engine produces electricity which then drives the car at about 70 kilometers per hour, and just flipped over to parallel mode. Okay, let me see if I can get it back. It's a very, very uneconomical way to drive the car in serious mode, because it uses a fair bit of petrol then. It goes far beyond the 10, 11, 12 liters. And at this time it is actually dependent on your gas pedal. So the more you push the gas pedal, the more petrol it uses. And you can hear the engine revving up at the front, which is not very nice.
20 minutes later.
Okay, so I picked up this computer here, and we now have 20 kilometers in the gasometer, in the battery, and 18 kilometers to go home. So I probably haven't turned off the safe mode early enough, and I have charged too much energy into the battery, which I probably don't use anymore. But we have to go. This is totally a 100 kilometer zone now until home, and it still will be very, very tight to get home. can try. I can try. Oh, it went even up to 21 because I was coasting quite a while. And 17 kilometers, so we've got 4 kilometers banked. And we are on 67% state of charge. As long as there are no cars... there's one coming. Yeah, he's coming after me. Oh well, let them just overtake you. That's fine. I'll drive slowly so I can make it. And here he comes. Shitty, slow electric vehicle. And you know, I told the customer I will be there at 6 o'clock, and it was only 5:30 when I started, and I had plenty of time to get there in time. So I took it really easy, and that's what you want to do when driving the PHEV. You take it easy, you take your foot off the accelerator, let it coast, you drive slowly. You have to find the sweet spot, as I mentioned before in some of my videos. 80 kilometers per hour is the sweet spot between getting somewhere far away and using less energy. That's the most efficient speed. Of course, if you drive 60, it is even more efficient, but then it takes a longer time to get there. So you don't want to overdo it. So I think 80 kilometers per hour is quite nice, and that's what I'm driving right now. And I have to be aware of kangaroos here now in the dusk. So I'm driving 80 kilometers per hour and using 8 kilowatt to keep this speed. While if I'm driving 100 on the highway, for example, I'm using about 15. Yeah, I'm using between 8 and 10 kilowatt now, driving 80 kilometers per hour as per speedometer. So we've got 5 kilometers to go, and we've got 6 kilometers on the gasometer. Just went down to 5. So in theory we should be good to go. We've got 40% state of charge. The last 5 kilometers probably are critical if you are trying to push the state of charge below 30%. Especially in an area like this one where you drive a little bit faster, like 80-100 kilometer zones. You want to drive as slow as possible within the last 5 kilometers. So the battery management system realizes you are a careful driver, and it allows you to discharge the battery a little bit more, a little bit further than it usually would. Okay, we are at 36% now state of charge and 10.8 ampere hours. Okay, we've got 2 kilometers to home and 3 kilometers on the gasometer, so that works out quite well. I did not make it. 31% state of charge. The last 200 meters before home, and the engine kicked in. So I told you, these up and down these hills on this side of my way home, they're always killing the efficiency of the car, always. It's amazing. On the other side, I can leave the highway at 3 kilometers away and can make it with 30% state of charge back home, and I'm arriving here with about 26%. There's no problem at all. But from this side over there with the hills, it's just not possible. It's just not possible, because you're using more energy uphill, and the BMS realized that and said, oh, he's using a lot of energy, kick the engine in, the engine to rescue. And well, that's all right. It was just the last 150 meters again. And I still got 1 kilometer left. Just having a quick look at the consumption from today. So I've charged 10.4 kilowatt hours all in total. That was from this morning and at the club. And I have used 16.2 kilowatt hours plus 1.8 liters per 100 kilometers. And this was for a total trip of 68 kilometers, 86% drive. See, I'm still doing a lot of regen here, which I probably should avoid as far as possible. Regen is good, but gliding, coasting is much better. So what you want to do is get this number, the top one with the little airplane, the glide and coast figure, as high as possible, and this one as low as possible, and the stop time as low as possible as well. This is basically counting the time when you sit on traffic lights or waiting for other traffic to pass and things like this. Or if you just sit in your car and make a video, this all counts to the stop time. Okay guys, so far our little trip today is we've made almost a road trip out of this thing now. Yep, let's go inside and enjoy the warm fireplace, and we see us in the next video. Thanks for watching guys. You stay charged and we see us soon. Bye bye.